There's a part of the American financial system that most people never think about. It's not the stock market, it's not the banks, and it's not the Fed. It's something far more ordinary. The credit card in your wallet. And right now, that ordinary little piece of plastic is exposing something uncomfortable about the state of the American economy. Because behind the scenes, credit card delinquencies are rising again. Not in a dramatic 2008-style collapse, but in a quieter, more revealing way. The kind of rise that tells you people are under pressure long before the headlines catch up. According to the Federal Reserve, the delinquency rate on credit card loans at commercial banks hit 2.98% in the third quarter of 2025. That number alone won't shock anyone. It's nowhere near the 6 to 7% peaks of the GFC. But that's not the point. The point is the direction and the story behind it. Because when you zoom out, the Fed's own research shows that delinquencies have climbed back to levels not observed since the global financial crisis. And when you look at the broader credit bureau data, the picture gets even more dramatic. In some states, Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, more than 30% of credit card accounts were marked delinquent in early 2025. That's not a national collapse, but it's a sign of how uneven and fragile the financial landscape has become. And all of this is happening while Americans owe $1.21 trillion on their credit cards, a number so large it barely feels real. But it is real. It's sitting on kitchen tables, in glove compartments, in the back pockets of millions of people who are trying to keep up with a cost of living that simply refuses to slow down. Here's the part nobody likes to admit. People don't fall behind on credit cards because they're irresponsible. They fall behind because the system is designed to make falling behind incredibly easy. Minimum payments look like a lifeline, but they're really a business model, a way to keep balances alive, a way to keep interest flowing, a way to turn short-term borrowing into long-term dependency. And when interest rates are hovering around record highs, that dependency becomes a trap. A balance that should take months to pay off suddenly stretches into years. A $1,000 emergency becomes a $3,000 burden. A missed payment becomes a cycle. And the system doesn't need you to default, it just needs you to stay behind. That's why delinquencies matter. Not because the number is catastrophic, but because it reveals the pressure building underneath. People don't miss credit card payments first. They miss them last. After rent, after groceries, after utilities, after the car payment. When delinquencies rise, it means the essentials are squeezing people dry, and the consequences ripple outward. When banks see delinquencies rise, they tighten lending, they cut credit limits, they approve fewer applications, they raise standards, and the people who need credit the most suddenly can't get it. That's how a household problem becomes an economic signal. This isn't a collapse, it's a warning, a quiet one. The kind that shows up in the numbers months before it shows up in the news. And the question now isn't whether Americans are struggling. The data already answered that. The question is what happens next, and how people can break out of a system that's built to keep them in. If you really want to understand what's happening, you have to look past the numbers and look at the design. Because the truth is, the credit card system in America doesn't function like a safety net. It functions like a pressure valve. One that releases just enough steam to keep people going, but never enough to let them get ahead. And when the pressure builds faster than the valve can release it, you get exactly what we're seeing now, a slow, quiet rise in people falling behind. Think about how the system is structured. Minimum payments are marketed as flexibility, but they're really a way to stretch a balance over years. Interest rates are advertised as variable, but they only ever seem to vary in one direction. Rewards programs make people feel like they're winning something, even as the interest wipes out every dollar of cash back 10 times over. And the moment someone slips, even by a day, the penalties kick in. Fees, higher annual percentage rates, reduced limits. It's not a rescue, it's a revenue stream. And that's the part most people don't see. The system doesn't need everyone to default. It just needs enough people to revolve their balances, enough people to pay interest, enough people to stay in the cycle. Delinquencies rising don't mean the system is failing. They mean the system is working exactly as designed, extracting as much as possible from people who are already stretched thin. But here's where the real danger comes in. When millions of households are under this kind of pressure at the same time, it doesn't stay a household problem. It becomes an economic one. Because when people are behind on credit cards, they're not spending on anything else. They're not buying cars. They're not traveling. They're not investing. They're not stimulating the economy. They're just trying to stay afloat. And when enough people are in that position, the economy slows down. Banks tighten lending. Businesses pull back. Job growth softens. It's a chain reaction. And delinquencies are one of the earliest links in that chain. They're not the cause of the slowdown. They're the signal that the slowdown is already happening. But here's the part that matters most. People aren't powerless in this system. The trap is real, but it's not inescapable. The first step is understanding how the system works. Because once you see the mechanics, you can stop playing the game the way the system wants you to. The biggest shift people can make is moving from reactive to intentional. Instead of letting the minimum payment dictate the pace, they take control of the pace. Instead of spreading spending across multiple cards, they consolidate their focus. Instead of letting interest accumulate quietly in the background, they attack the balance that's costing them the most. And instead of treating credit as an extension of income, they treat it as a tool, one that can either work for them or against them depending on how it's used. And the moment someone starts doing that, the system loses its grip because the system relies on people not paying attention. It relies on people being overwhelmed. It relies on people being too busy, too stressed, too stretched to question why their balance never seems to go down. Once someone starts paying attention, the trap stops working. That's the real story behind rising delinquencies. Not that Americans are irresponsible, not that the economy is collapsing, but that millions of people are being squeezed by a system that was never built to help them. And the pressure is finally showing up in the data. The numbers matter, but the story behind the numbers matters more. Because this isn't just about credit cards. It's about the cost of living. It's about wages that haven't kept up. It's about interest rates that punish the people who can least afford it. It's about a financial system that works beautifully for the people who designed it and brutally for the people who rely on it. And if the trend continues, the pressure won't just stay on households. It'll move up the chain to banks, to businesses, to the broader economy. Delinquencies don't shout, they whisper. But right now, the whisper is getting louder. Even with all of this, the story isn't just about pressure. It's about awareness. Because once you see how the system works, you stop blaming yourself for being caught in it. You start noticing the patterns, the incentives, the design, and that's where everything shifts. The system is powerful, but it's not unbeatable. The moment someone stops moving on autopilot and starts making intentional choices, the trap loses its grip. And if enough people do that at the same time, the whisper in the data becomes something else entirely, a signal that the system is finally being understood. Because in a system built to keep people behind, the most powerful thing you can do is finally see it for what it is.